Hey everybody, welcome to my channel. I'm Houston with How to Houston Designs. Today I'm going to be walking you through step by step on doing a resin pour with ocean waves. I'm mixing up my resin. It's a 1-to-1 ratio. Once I have it poured out, I need to mix it for about 3 minutes. While I'm doing that, I'm thinking about the colors that I want to use for my ocean waves. I'm going to get 3 cups here, and I'm going to pour into 2 of them about equal parts, and then the third one I don't need quite as much. And then the cup that I use to mix, I'm going to leave a little bit in there so that I could use that for part of my wave as well. You'll need some popsicle sticks and the different colors that you want to use. The first one I'm mixing up is my white. Make sure as you're mixing that you're going really slow and you're scraping the sides. It's important that you mix it really well so that you don't have any inconsistencies. When you're adding in colors, you don't need a lot of the pigment. Just 1 drop goes a long way. And if it's too much for you, you can put a drop on a piece of paper and then dip your popsicle stick into that to get just a little bit of the color. As I'm mixing this up, I realized I grabbed the same blue. It was different bottles, but it's the same color blue. I have a lot of different ones. So now I'm going to add the color I wanted to this one. I'm going to mix it up, and to try to add a little bit more variation to it, I'm going to go ahead and grab my powder and add just a tad bit into there. This will give it a little bit of a shimmer to it. Now it's very important as I'm mixing this to scrape the sides even more. I want to make sure that this powder is mixed in very evenly throughout. I'm going to go ahead and set those aside, and I'm going to start setting up my board. I put down a few empty cups and put it on top so that it's elevated. You want to make sure that this area is very leveled so that you don't have any of your waves crashing to one side. On top of everything, or below everything, I have just a shower curtain. It's really thick so that when the resin dries, it peels right up. So I'm taking my very first blue that I have. This is the one that has the shimmer in it, the powder. And I'm going to put it on the whole edge of the board. You can use your finger or the popsicle stick to spread it around, and this kind of starts creating the shape of the waves that you want. Once I like that, I'm going to grab my other blue, and I'm just going to go right along that edge. It's definitely okay if they overlap because you want them to blend, so don't worry about it. Nothing has to be perfect. You want to make sure you're not going to get any drips anywhere else on the board because that just makes it harder for you to have to clean up. It's more work in the end. I like the way this is looking. So now I'm going to grab my blow dryer and try to start blending it together. Although this blow dryer that I grabbed first, you can tell it's not doing too much manipulation. You can't see anything moving. I'm going to get my torch, and you just go quickly across to pop any of the air bubbles that you get from mixing. Now I'm going to grab a little bit more of the blue, and I'm just pouring it along, and so it's really thick so it'll flow over the edges. I want to make sure this is blended really well, so I got my blow dryer once again. But as you can tell, this blow dryer is not doing anything, so I need to find a new one. Alright, now I've got a new blow dryer. Now you can see the importance of it. It makes everything blend really well. You can also use a heat gun when you're doing this. It's just your preference. Once again, you can get your torch and just quickly run it across to pop any of the bubbles that have risen to the surface. Now you're ready to get your clear. With this, you're going to start making your first wave. You can make this as thick or as thin as you want. It can overlap or it can go more onto just the wood. It's up to you. This is where you get to be really creative. Once you've done that, you're going to take your white, and you can sometimes let this sit a few more minutes and get it really thick for a better wave. And then you're going to go slowly along the edge of the clear and pour right on the edge. You can use your popsicle stick to kind of guide you. And if you need to add any more extra on, you can also just dip it into your popsicle stick and go right along the edge. Now you're ready to get your blow dryer or a heat gun and get it warmed up. Start really slow with this. Start from further away and slowly bring it down closer to your piece. You'll see how quickly it can manipulate the white into your blue. This is blowing out the wave. This is what you're going to see throughout your whole piece, and you don't want to go too fast. Take your time with this part. And this is really just your preference. This wave's starting to look good. I like it. I'm going to leave it as is. Now I'm grabbing my torch, running it across to pop any air bubbles that have risen to the surface. But this heat also helps it to start creating the cells. If you don't know what the cells are, I'll show you once we get to the end. It's kind of hard to see from this angle. I have extra resin left over, so I'm throwing down just a little board so that I can do one more little piece so I'm not wasting anything. I'm going to go along the same steps that I did before, adding 2 different types of blues, and then blending them together. Now I'll grab my blow dryer and just let those 2 blues blend together a little bit better. Once I like the way that looks, I'll go ahead and I'll grab my clear. With this board, I'm just going straight across. And then I'll get my white and I'm going to follow the same path and go just right along the edge of the clear. With my blow dryer, I'm just going to slowly blow this wave out. As I'm blowing this out, I realize it's kind of really heavy with the white on the left side. I don't like the way it looks. So I'm going to take the blow dryer and I'm going to try to push it out a little bit further and see if I can get a better looking wave. I don't want it quite as thick as it was. This is starting to look a lot better. So now I can take my torch one more time, pop any air bubbles, and then try to help it to start forming some cells. Here's a quick view of the 2 boards in between pours. This is just drying. The little circles that you see, those are called cells, so that's what really brings life to these waves. Now that it's been 24 hours, we're ready for our second pour. I went ahead and mixed up my blues already. The first pour that I'm doing is a little bit darker blue than I used the first time, but it's very transparent. So you'll be able to see below to the waves underneath. You notice that I don't need as much resin with this pour, with this second wave, because we're not going to be covering as much surface area as we did with our first wave. We want this to look like layers. So with this next blue, it looks a lot lighter than it actually is because there's so many air bubbles in it. But once we start popping those, you'll see that it really isn't as light. On this little board, I'm adding mostly just the light blue, and I'll go back in later and I'll add in a little bit darker because I don't want to cover up too much of the previous wave that I've already poured. I'm taking my blow dryer and I'm going to go ahead and start trying to blend this a little bit. I'm going backwards to try to bring this dark blue into my lighter blue. This will help it make it look a little bit more natural. And then I'm going to go back through and add a little bit more to it to make sure I'm running off all of my edges. I just want to make sure that I'm blended really well first. Now I can go back in and I'm going to add a little bit of this dark blue to the very edge so that it gives a little bit more dimension for me. The rest, anything that's left, I'm going to add to the edges and the corners. Here I'm just using whatever I have left. This way it'll just overflow off the edges and I'm not wasting as much resin. I hate wasting it in the cup. We've formed a really nice wave with these blues. I like the way it's looking. I'm taking my blow dryer again just to continue to blend and make sure it looks really nice. Just like before, I'm taking the transparent clear and I'm gonna follow really closely this time along the edge of this wave. You don't have to do this. You can still make it larger if you want, but it's just up to you. It's always personal preference, whatever you think looks best. It's nice when you're working with two boards side by side because you can do one long continuous pour. Here's the white, and I'm gonna do a little bit thinner line this time. I'm gonna go right along the edge of this clear and follow it along from board to board. I can use my popsicle stick as a guide as I pour it down. Just like with the first wave, I'm going to take my blow dryer and I'm going to start slow and further distance and bring it in slowly and just pushing out the wave to whatever I think looks best. It's okay to take your time here and don't rush it. You want it to look good, and if you're just trying to fly through this, you won't be happy in the end. You can see how the light blue looks extra light right now, but honestly, most of those are just air bubbles. Once I go through with the torch, it'll pop them all, and you'll see that it really starts bringing out the darker shades of blue. Once you've blown the waves out to where you like them, go ahead and take your torch and pop all those air bubbles. That gives you a better idea of what your final product's going to actually look like. It takes some time for the cells to really start forming, but just give it a few minutes and you'll see them start coming together. If you want to add more white and thicken up any of the foam, just go really slow with your popsicle stick. Sometimes I like to do this, it gives it a little bit thicker edge, and I think it makes it look a little bit more realistic. Make sure you continue to pop any air bubbles that rise to the surface, but don't use too much heat. All right, now you can really see the beautiful colors that have shown through with these blues and all the cells that we created. Now I'm just going to oil the board and bring out the beautiful rich brown colors of this black walnut. You can use any food safe cutting board oil that you want, and make sure you rub it in really well and that it really gets soaked up into the grains. You want to make sure you're doing the edges and the sides and doing the back side of it as well. As I'm doing this, you can really see how well these waves turned out. I love the second layer so much. I really hope you guys enjoyed watching this and are ready for your first pour. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Thanks for watching.